So I'm going to be talking about Recall, which is my creative nonfiction book. And I'm going to talk about when this happened. And I might read an excerpt if you guys want. And yeah, I think I'm going to read chapter 4 from the book. And it's interesting too, because I want to talk about this. Hey, so I'm going to be thanks for being there, Zale. I'm going to be talking about Recall, my novel. And I'm going to be talking about it because as I was reading it, I realized that there was some stuff that really had little wisdoms about soul connection, about the soul connections and sexual energy. It is an erotic book. It's a creative nonfiction, which means it happened. I did a lot of creative licenses on the past life because I had to. And, when you go through a past life remembrance, it comes like a quilt. It comes in pieces. But it was an extraordinary experience because I'm going to tell you how I was able to tap into past lives. And that might help you tap into yours, to your past lives in a more, where you can flesh it out to the end, which sometimes the only way to do that is through hypnotherapy. All right? So, Recall was written in the summer of 2020, within a summer. And to write it, I had to do my morning pages. That was protocol. And I wrote that sucker in 3 months. And I was writing every day, working 6 hours a day to write it, making sure I had boundaries for myself so I was available to my family. Because I tend to get very intense. But let me ask you if you've ever read a creative nonfiction, meaning it's almost like a memoir, but it isn't really. And it's erotic, and it talks about reincarnation, and it's specific. It's not just flipping from one reincarnation to another. It actually talks about a specific life where there's some scars, aka impressions. Some scars in Sanskrit means impressions that we carry from one life to another. It's one of the baggages that we have to learn how to release. This is part of your shadow work. It has nothing to do with just this life. It has a lot to do with past lives. So Recall, the way it happened, it was 1996 into 97. I met a man. I'm going to call him Malik because that's the cult character that I have. It was AOL, was, kicking butt. There was MSM and there was AOL. Those were the chat systems that were in place. And I had a profile on AOL with the name Bacchor. Bacchor, which in Latin means to run wild and rebel. Why did I choose that? Because in the time I had an art magazine, or I was going to have an art magazine years later, actually, come to think of it. And Malik texted me. I'd never met him before. In fact, I never physically met him. I never heard his voice. I never saw his face. It was all energy and texting, or chatting is the term. And he asked me one day, do you believe in reincarnation? And I was like, he wasn't asking me what I was wearing, because, in those days there were like real fiends coming on and trying to have sex talks and so forth. You know what I mean? They were trying to have like dirty chats, because it was the beginnings of chatting anonymously. Anyway, Malik asked me, do you believe in reincarnation? I go, yes, I do. He goes, I see you were born in Paris. I go, yes, I was. He goes, I'm in Paris now. I go, wow, good for you. And he said, I know you from a past life. And I went, what do you mean? You don't even know me. He goes, your name, Bacchor. And I went, really? He goes, yeah. You were my queen. And I was like, what? And I was like, what the fuck? And it was insane. And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, do me a favor. I want you to close your eyes. And I was like, wait, hang on. What in the hell is this going to be about? And I was like, what the hell? I'm safe. It's about reincarnation. Okay, fine. Let me close my eyes. And I closed my eyes and breathed into it. He was also a psychic. And suddenly I started seeing images of me in an ancient timeline, like 3,000 years ago. I didn't know it at the time that it was exactly 3,000 years ago, but I knew it was ancient. And I was at the opening of a cave, and I was looking out and turned around. I saw myself and how I looked in those days. And I said, I see a man. He goes, yes, let me describe you. And he started to describe me to the T. There's no way he would have known. And the way he described me was that I was very slight, with pale skin, large gold eyes, and black mahogany hair. And he described my lips, it was unbelievable. And it's exactly what I had seen. And then I described him. And that's when we started. This is when we made connection. You know what I'm saying? We connected in such a way, because there's no way I could have known what he looked like unless I was seeing what I was seeing. And from that point, we started sharing a past life as a married couple. Later, much later, I was to learn that Malik in ancient Persian means king. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all, because, see, the name I just gave you is a fake name. It wasn't the name that he came under, but that's the name I chose for the book. And so I wouldn't write the book until damn near 14 years later, come to think of it. And I remember at the time I was engaged to my husband, who you'll meet if you buy the book, as Daniel. And Daniel and I we were living in Pasadena. We were in our very early 30s. In fact, both of us had just turned 30. And this experience was happening. And because my husband believed in reincarnation, we ended up getting married later, but he highly believed in reincarnation. He was jealous, but not really. It was weird. It was like, I think he understood. It wasn't a sexual thing, because no way in these chats with Malik did I ever have weird sexual talks with him. Never. He was married. He was an engineer. He was also a psychic, he said, which, no shit. and he was, I could feel his energy. And he incarnated again as a Persian man. Again, it was interesting, because this ancient life was set in Mesopotamia 3,600 years ago. And as I met with him damn near, actually every day, we would continue to fill in the blanks of this past life we shared. And this is what this book is about. There were weird things also. There was a lot. It was very, this book is extremely sexually charged, especially in the past life, because sex in the ancient world, there was lovemaking, there was love, there was the connection of tenderness, but sex also was used. I mean, if you've really, really read Cleopatra, right? Sex was used to control, dominate. And that hasn't really changed, to be honest. But in those days, and so the book is very erotic. It may shock you, because it's pretty intense. I've shocked people. I don't know why. But in those days, as you can imagine, women had a certain level of power, but they were no way near, had the strength, the physical strength of warriors and kings and conquerors. And so sex and sexuality was the only sword that they could wield with finesse to protect themselves and their children. Okay? And so if you decide to buy the book, which is called Recall, you're going to see some things that may shock you, but there's some interesting aspects that you'll also see between the present incarnation, which is what I write about. And it's interesting too, because the present incarnation was literally, what you read is literally what happened between me and Daniel. And what's interesting about Daniel, the name Daniel, which I made up in 2012, was that this is the nickname my twin gives to himself in this incarnation. And many things that I wrote that made, that I thought was, a certain linear truth, were actually synchronicities between the past life of my, my husband, my fiance at the time, and my twin. So it's not to confuse you, but I am one woman who has loved two men, and I understand the confusion that happens when you love two people. Okay, I understand the confusion. I understand the pain, and the pain is something that very few people can actually wrap their head on, especially if they don't understand the spiritual connection between the sexual desires and the soul connection. They are together. It is not pheromones, my friends. Pheromones are from the concept of an incredible soul connection, soul contract, unfinished business. I don't care what you call it. But those pheromones, the smell of your man, the smell of your woman, those things, those are almost like a soul's DNA emanating its own perfume, connecting you to your person. The sound of their voice, the way they walk, the way they tilt their head, the way they smile at you. That's what I mean. Not everyone is for everyone, clearly, right? There are men and women that are absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and you wouldn't go to bed with them at all because they don't turn you on. You may look at them like one looks at a statue or a painting, and then suddenly you're turned on, like to a feverish point, with someone whose physicality may not even be quote unquote your type, but suddenly you're manic for them. You would lick them from head to toe. That's soul connection. And that's what my book explores and recall. It explores that. It explores femininity and masculinity and its twistedness in some parts. Okay? The shadows of those two, the beauty of those two aspects of the genders, as well as its toxicity. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. Anyone here read the book yet? Jen is reading the book now, actually. It's on Goodreads. It was published by a small press, so you can look at the reviews there. And I think there's 4 written reviews, but we're going to update it because when I released this book in 2012 by the small publishing house, I thought to myself, there's no way in hell people would believe this shit. There's no way they would believe that I met a man on the internet, on AOL, and that we had this whole fleshed out life in a past life in Mesopotamia, and that it was X, Y, and Z. There's no way. So I went ahead and hid in the shadows and released it as a fiction, to be fair. And finally this year, I decided to release it. It's, and to release it with it. There's a forward letter. I explained some stuff to re-release it. Kind of like, I'm trying to think. Lynn Andrews was releasing a lot of her books, and Carlos Castaneda, some pretty magical shit. I mean, intense stuff. Again, these were Native American. With Carlos Castaneda was a lot of American shamanism, South American shamanism. With Lynn Andrews, she was an American woman who was connected with the Sisterhood of the Shield, I believe. And many people didn't believe her. So I had grown up with a lot of people who came out with their spiritual books, like Grandpa T. Lobsang, who wrote The Third Eye, The Saffron Robe, all kinds of books, like I think 12 of 20 books on Tibet as a walk-in. And I knew that people just don't believe in stuff, okay? They don't believe in anything. And finally, I decided to re-release the book under my own juice and to write. The content of the book hasn't changed. The forward letter just explains that it's a creative nonfiction. And it may actually trigger you on multiple ways, because I've had multiple people read the book when it was first released in 2012, 2013, around that time. And I had people literally writing me, emailing me saying, I can't believe it. Just reading your book triggered a past life with me. Like I had a woman who she read my manuscript before it ever was published. And she said, Tony, I just had a past life. She said, I've been having problems. I'm a dancer. I've been having problems dancing. My legs don't work. My knees are messed up. No one knows what's wrong, and I don't know what's going on. And I read your book, and I had a past life like hit, like downloads that started coming, and dreams. And apparently I was a Chinese woman, she said, and I was my feet were bound. In other words, I don't know if you know the concept of being foot bound, but when you to make the feet small in ancient China, they used to break the foot when you were very young, and bound them. And so the problem was that you couldn't run, you couldn't walk. It was insane just to have tiny feet. So she had a past life with that kind of trauma. And she said, I was able to remember that past life, and now I'm going to Nepal to do some dancing exposition. She was an actual professional dancer. So sometimes when you read someone else's past life, and oh, wow, I didn't know, it's on my list. What we call is based on your story? Yes. Yes, it's based on a story. When you read the present tense, it's the job I had, it's the shit I did. I've changed my coloring, I've changed people's races, names, all kinds of stuff like that, just to protect people who are still living. Okay, but the actual, when you read anything in the present, it actually happened like it happened. And when you read the ancient past of Mesopotamia, it happened, and then I had to flesh stuff out, and I would go into meditations and figure stuff out, and then I would get downloads. Like there's a birthing scene that I wrote, and it felt like I was reliving the birth of one of my children in Mesopotamia, which is called the cradle of civilization. So, yeah. So I think I'm going to, if you'd like, and then I'll do an oracle reading. I'm going to read something, okay, that I wrote, and then years later I found out that what I had written was fucking real, okay? And that's when you know you're not bullshitting yourself, okay? So I'm going to read this. This is The Conqueror. I'm sorry, it's not 36, it's 3500 BCE, okay? I just bought it on Amazon. Oh, thank you. I hope it was 1111, right? You bought the right copy. All right. So The Conqueror. The moon rose and fixed itself upon the sky like a spirit that watched over us. It was turning a golden orange, a dark orange, and I was unable to sleep. Malik had long drifted off after our battle of love. He was exhausted. Tomorrow, I would be led to the temple of Ishtar, where it was my duty to take coins from any man and have sex with him. Every woman from our land had done so. It was said that if a woman was ugly, she may have spent years sitting on the steps waiting for the coins to release her from her duty. Though I was queen, I was no less bound by my duty, and so it was that I sat on my terrace, watching the sky move and sway with the changing hour. I was spellbound by the lush beauty of my gardens. Down and down the plants rose from obscure porticos and large clay pots, all manner of flowers and fruit-bearing plants and large palms. All was green and rich with perfumes of orange blossom and roses. I must say that I rose from my divan with the sun and met the saddened gaze of my king. I will think of something, Malik assured me. I'm not afraid, my love. Malik had been the only man I had ever lain with. The idea of another touching me frightened me and enraged him. Malik had planned to come to me in full costume as a warrior, perhaps as a beggar, it mattered not. The truth was that my beauty was celebrated, and men from all corners were traveling to see me, and perhaps to be the one who would place their offering between my thighs. My beautiful tub of copper, inlaid with lapis lazuli, was brought in. I bathed in a warm bath scented with rose oil, and then I was made to stand legs apart over a pot of burning myrrh, whose tendril of smoke rose insolently and caressed my thighs and curled about my freshly plucked mound. I was made new, a Vestal virgin, in honor of the great Mother Ishtar. None of it made sense to me, but it was said to please all the gods. My maid had even whispered that perhaps a god would descend from the skies and offer me gold coin for the chance to taste me for one night. It all seemed impossible. To back away from the ceremony would assure the continuous abundance of our fertile valleys, and throughout my bloodline hark back to Egyptian pharaohs. I was now their queen, and bound by their custom, their laws, so I prayed to both Ishtar and Isis. So in the ancient world, in Mesopotamia, there was a law that said that no matter what, low bred or high bred, you had to, once in your lifetime, you had to, as a woman, go to the steps of Ishtar, and any man would have the right to give coin for a night with you. It was your duty. It was your duty. You have to do it. It was not a question. And so this is what she's being prepared to do. Parts of me was filled with the beating wings of fear. The strain was so heavy that I was sure to burst open as the Nile opens wide to flood the nearby valleys. These feelings showed a violent change that would bring its own kind of pain, and this alone bore down on me like a stone. And it was made to smell the bitter aroma of a solution made from deer horns and hooves. The dark, bitter smell brought me back. The day was bright and high, and the procession of married women who walked to the temple of Ishtar was plenty, and most were farmers. I was one of 12 women from the court, and by no means was I the most beautiful of all their offerings, but I can say that I was the most desired. Malak carried me to my transformation in his chariot, led by 4 gray horses of equal stature and gait. Still, I was jostled by the rough roads and sudden jarring stops. The sounds of trumpets coupled with harps and lutes banged as the procession moved forward. Large round leaves protected me from the sun, the heat, and the rising dust. Bulls decorated with flowers and scented with spices walked before us, and their powerful hooves kicked up dust. One bull that was milky white and bigger than the rest had been bred to all cows and now was ready to be sacrificed to the gods. The beast led the walk to our deaths, physical for the beast, spiritual for others. I knew that today everything was going to change and that there was nothing Malak could do to stop it. It was his duty to bear sons from many wives, but ever since we had first coupled, he had only lain with me. That too would change, had to change, and the thought brought tears to my eyes. I gazed down at my body, barely covered by the softest spun linen, like a cobweb that exposed all my womanhood, with no mistake that I was unmarred by scars or deformations of any kind. I needed to have this trial be done, and as soon as the gods would permit, I hoped that Ishtar would favor me with a good man. I only desired to honor my king, my children, and my people. We moved past the pair of griffins that guarded the gate to the temple, so tall that I had to hold my head back as far as I could to see their faces, tall as 3 men stacked on top of each other. We continued past our journey, followed by the cacophony of trumpets and drums, the stream of flower petals, and all manner of celebration and shouts. We jolted to a stop in front of the temple, columns depicting battles and stories from the ancient kings and queens of the past. Marble staircases were decorated with tiny tiles of lapis lazuli, and crystal quartz the size of my thumb decorated each stair with images of stalking lions, stories of sea voyages and flying gods of lower statures, and of course at the top of the stairs was a statue of Ishtar, the goddess, our mother, who was part bird. Women were already settling themselves upon the stairs to wait for the man who would throw a coin to lay with them in honor of our great mother. Malak hoisted me off the chariot and drew my gown over my top of my head. The sun was sinking slowly behind our beloved mountains, and its rays caught the mahogany glow of my hair. I stood nude before his admiring gaze, and the gasp of those who witnessed rippled through the crowd. I shook my hair as it cloaked my breasts and grazed my hips like a fine cloak. He held my hand in his and placed a gold ring on my thumb, set with a purple stone, engraved with 2 people coupling. He turned the palm of my hand, which he kissed for a long while, trailing his lips across my wrist. He led me up the stairs, and I walked with shoulders back and straight, barefoot, and stripped of all but the gentle jingle that my gold ankle bracelet made as I stepped toward the top of the stairs. He turned to face me and kissed my neck, and then suddenly bit my shoulder with a violence that was unlike Malak, not deep enough to draw blood, but enough to draw tears that trembled beneath my lowered lids. When I dared look at him, he was smiling at the obvious teeth mark he had made upon my shoulder. He clapped his hands, and a slave ran to meet us, holding out a blood-red cloth, which was in fact the finest weave I'd ever seen, of the deepest red, blood red, like the roses I grew by the south side of our terrace. He allowed it to ripple down about me, but I barely felt anything heavier than a breath. You are to walk to the palace when your duty has been accomplished, he whispered. I nodded my head, remembering well the instructions the priestess had offered me these many months in preparation for this very day. From all the accounts, the highest bidder would be allowed to bed me, and no one else, a man of royal blood. Of that I was assured. Still, Malik... Hang on, my dog is drinking water. Anyway, let me continue. Sorry, that totally distracted me. Anyway, shall I continue? Or shall we move on? Let me see. Okay. All right, let me continue. I sat. The red breath of air floated around me like a cloud. I stayed with my back straight and my head held high until my lower back began to ache. A crowd of men with bags of silver and gold had gathered and were bidding for the priestess for the right to touch the queen. The sun was a sharp red on the horizon and colored all that it touched with its hue. The sky was deepening, and the night was gathering its courage to stain out the sun. Torches and large brass pots were being lit with fire. Without much of a sound, a man wearing the headdress of a ram appeared. He held a harp of pure gold. In his other hand he held a sword of a workmanship that was both foreign and wonderful, large and broad, with a handle that had stones of various hues, which glimmered. He was tall as a cedar tree, and his chest was covered with fine spun of gold hairs. His arms and shoulders were broad. He was the largest man I had ever seen, and I began to tremble with fear and thrill at the sight of him. He did not address me, and with great reverence, he walked to the high priestess with the harp, handing her the gift. Will this please Ishtar? He asked in a deep voice tinged with an accent I could not recognize. The priestess was no fool, for should she have dared refuse him, I know now that he would have buried his sword within her without a second thought to the sacrilege of the act. A golden mask hid the content of his eyes and upper face from view. He wore amulets about his upper arms, and a strange design snaked about his left shoulder and arm, a design of smoke and winged creatures, a design made by demons. He did not look at me, but simply brought me by my feet and threw me across his back. He continued up the stairs and walked through his open gate that led right up to the altar, his sword in hand. He howled like a dog, and all who stood near him fled in fear. I was deposited upon the large altar. He tore the red sheath off, smiling with a grin that even his mask could not hide. Who are you? My voice trembled. I am your new kin, he growled, taking off his mask and headdress and throwing him to the ground. He has now marked what is mine, he remarked coldly, trailing a fingertip across Malik's teeth marks. He lowered his head, and I will stop there. So that is that's chapter 4 in Recall. And so it's based again on a true recollection of a past life. And it was probably one of the most bizarre past life I've ever remembered. And I still can't believe it happened, to be honest, as I write it. So if you guys are interested, it's on my Linktree. And it's a fast read. And each chapter goes present, future. And as this was being written, by the way, I decided that this was a book based on the end of a society, right? As you know, Mesopotamia was conquered by many different warring tribes. But I later learned that there was a tribe of people in Iraq. I'm not clear. I don't think people are clear as to the region, but they were described as tall as the cedars. These men were like 6'4", 6'5". They actually existed, and they were warriors. And so the conqueror that you're reading about is actually from those tribes. of from that part of the world. So the other thing that was interesting to me is this idea that King Nebuchadnezzar, I don't know if you guys know anything about the history of the Hanging Gardens, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and I'm not so sure it was him that created the gardens. And you can read about that. The Hanging Gardens are actually mentioned in the book many times, but they're alluded to it. They're not really mentioned until you read the epilogue. And then there's a clarity. It's like an aha moment for anybody who's going to read it. Thank you, Canary. That's really cute. Thank you. That's very sweet. So this was all about recall. And again, the idea of the conqueror in that ancient world, and Y2K, because again, this is set during the Y2K conversion. It's people are preparing for Y2K and people are panicking. I don't know if you guys remember how people were acting during Y2K. You think what we've gone through in the last, say, 3 years is laughable because we've really gone through some shit as a society. And yet with Y2K, that people were preparing for in 1997, 98, 99, and Y2K 2000, people were they were stocking water, guns, food, liquidating, getting all their money out. It was really strange that they thought it would be the end of the world. Very much similar to when 2012, the Mayan calendar ended, which was really an end of an era, moving out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. You know what I mean? But anyway, so when I wrote the book, I wanted to parallel those two ideas of this energy of endings, you know what I mean? Of endings and beginnings. So I would love to see that on a video. It would make a good series. Yeah. I've had people like say, do an audible, so I will, but it's like I tend to, on my own work, I tend to mess up sometimes. So I guess I would need to do that. Anyway, but the concept of twin flames is talked about. There's an actual, in the back of the book, there's a whole book club questionnaire. And if you guys wanted me to go to your book club, like literally do a Zoom series, like on talking about these questions, it's I would be happy to. Free, of course. But the questions are very simple. They're very pedestrian. What does reincarnation mean to you? Do you think Malik and Bakor were soulmates, or do you think Creo and Bakor were soulmates? What is a twin flame connection? What is that all about? In other words, what is the nature of soulmates? What is the difference between soulmates and twin flames? Do you feel that our lives are predestined? At what point does free will come into play? So the book is there to also talk about sexual connection, because I feel like sometimes people it's funny. Every client I've ever talked to, I'll say, I know you felt connected to this person, right? You felt incredible desire, but didn't you get a red flag? They'll go, yeah. But they gaslit it because the desire was overwhelming. And it's interesting because when you have desire to the level of desire that's almost obsessive, right? Let's say, and there's a red flag attached to it, that's a past life. Okay, you're being given an opportunity to right some wrongs or to get off the hamster wheel of that karmic samskara. So that's why I tell people, don't just jump into bed with people, man. Just find out go to your hypnotherapist and find out what the fuck this is going. What is this, right? So you can find out what is the unfinished business. Does that make sense? And in a way, that's what few people do. They go with their desire, they ignore it, and then they go, shit, oh shit, I wish I hadn't done that. Well, yeah, because it's the red flag that was the issue. The red flag and the desire combined is, okay, this is a past life. I've got unfinished business. Let me look into it. Does that make sense? And few people do that. Few people do that. And that's why you'll have a triangle. You'll have like a third party. And it's interesting because sometimes I do readings for people and on twin flames, and they're with a soulmate, sometimes a high level soulmate they're married to, or sometimes it's nothing. It's actually nothing. It's just a lesson. And sometimes I do the numerology, and guess what? Everyone involved has the same life path, or everyone is involved. I'll never forget this. I had a client who was really excited because she thought it was her twin flame. And the twin flame was born on the 26th day. She was born on the 26th day. So clearly that's all she looked at. But 2 plus 6 is 8. And her husband was born on the 8th day. They were all 8s, to be honest. And when she realized that, she was like, oh my God. She had never seen that. All she saw was 26. I'm born on the 26th day. He's born on the 26th. Oh my God. Instead of going, wait, hang on. 2 plus 6 is 8. Holy shit, we're all 8s, right? She didn't actually ask the right question. She wasn't really deep diving into it. That's why when I do a reading for clients, I do the numerology. But going back to recall, this is what this is about. It's about understanding these connections. You know what I mean? Understanding these connections and realizing that you better go deeper, especially if you know damn well, like the thing about it is, the trick is, don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself and blindfold yourself and just go willy-nilly into a situation that might create a shit show in your life because you were so blinded by lust, desire, connection, that you've forgotten that maybe that red flag is a past life. It's kind of like it's giving you a clue. You know what I'm saying? That red flag is a clue and should stop you on your tracks and go, wait, hang on, let me find out what this is. Good. Water Bear says, I've been there, lessons. I would love to see that on a video. It would make a good series. Thank you. Maybe I won't, I'll find out. But I think that the book itself, it's, again, just to forewarn you, it's very erotic and it's very, what's the word? The voices are completely different in the book. And so what I would say to you is that don't be triggered, because how men saw women in those days it shouldn't be a surprise. And it can be kind of brutal. So there's some brutal truths in here that I definitely was downloading. When Malik and I finalized our sessions, eventually we came to the end of our past lives that we'd shared. And so when Malik and I said goodbye, it's exactly how I write it. We spiritually met in Paris. We walked the streets of the Saint-Louis, exactly how I wrote it. It's exactly how we parted. And when we parted, just know that we had never spoken to each other on the phone. We had never seen each other's faces or pictures of each other. I didn't know what he looked like. He did not know what I looked like. It was just a journey that was quite extraordinary. And that was it. It ended because some scars and that were heavy were finally released and healed. And it was quite something. And so then you see the end, and towards the end there's the story between me and Daniel, who is Creo in that past life. And again, there's a lot. When I wrote it again to kind of throw things off the radar, if you know what I mean, okay? But I didn't want to put people in a weird position. I think, honestly, I knew at some point that I would really re-release this book as a creative nonfiction. I think in the back of my mind, I always knew I was going to do that. And so I never really wanted to expose anyone at all. But when you read Daniel, and Daniel is all my fiancé, and he was my high-level soulmate, and we had some amazing past lives also together, where I was his brother in a past life, and he had, in an ancient time, back in the Punic, during the Punic Wars, and I was one of his brothers, and it was pretty intense, and I was beheaded. And the head was thrown over the wall, and he that's how he found out I had perished in a battle. And that actually destroyed him to a level where he carried that some scar, that impression, with me in the incarnation we shared in this life. But I can tell you that I've been a hunter, if you will, a hunter of past lives. And the more I do it, the more I do my hypnotherapy sessions with clients, the more I do things like that, the more I realize how incredibly powerful it is to lock and load back into a past life. I've said it before in other lives, but one day I was like in my early 30s, I was having a lot of anxiety. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Somatically, my body didn't feel right. And it felt as if I was unsafe, okay, that somebody was going to take me away. It was really nonsensical. It made no sense. So I went to my hypnotherapist, and I was a 19-year-old boy in Russia during the Bolsheviks. I was pulled out of my home, and I was executed. And there was no reason for it, because I remember dying going, what did I do? So once I connected with that past life, and realize that the somatic memory, the samskara of that had been entrenched in this current body that that I now live in, had to be healed, had to be cleared. And once I understood this, I didn't have anxiety. I actually never had anxiety again. Okay, because I used to have like anxieties where literally I could pass out. I would hyperventilate. So it's pretty interesting. And knowing that was it. I even talk about one of my friends going to a past life regression, and in this book, and you'll see it. Any questions on your own experiences? Any questions on that? So again, that's why I'm stopping on some of the stuff, because it's pretty erotic, and I don't want to give the book away too much, but suffice it to say, it's a quick read. It's about 303 pages long, 297 actually, but with all the book club questions and stuff like that. Yeah, it comes to 288 actually. So it's a quick read, I think. Tony, can I text you to set up hypnotherapy past life? I'm ready. Okay, yes, I'd love to. Yes. And I can finish it in one day. I bet you can. There are certain books and it moves pretty fast, because one chapter is the present, the next chapter is the ancient past in Mesopotamia. It goes back and forth. And that's how I was directed to write it. And, but some of the stuff, is out there. Let me just say, hang on, let me just, so I need the link to the book. It's on it's actually on my Linktree. It goes directly to the Amazon site to buy it. You can buy it on Kindle, or you can buy it on as a book. And honestly, my editor, the guy that I've worked with, the way he set up is so beautiful. In my opinion, he's got the Ankh for the past lives, and he's got the flower of life for the present life as symbols. And the book's like, the way he set up this book, it's so beautiful. It's 6x9. It's a nice hefty copy. Hi Tony, I didn't get alerted that you were live, but glad I got on. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't know. Again, I'm being shadow banned, so yeah. So you'll see it. Very easy to read. It reads like a diary, actually, and you'll see, but it's not like Dear Diary. It goes into different things. Let me see. What else can I read? Let me see. Let me see if I can find something, but I don't want to give it away too much. But I don't want to spoil it. Alert. One of the things that fascinated me about something that I had experienced with Daniel, I'm just going to call him Daniel in the book, but just know that this was Daniel is based on my husband, just so you know. Completely. That's completely his personality. That's completely how he was. So Daniel and I used to go to a place called the Cliffs Book House that was open until midnight, sometimes 1:30 in the morning, and we go and look for books. And we come across these books of the Mitchell Hedges skull, which is true. And it was a skull that had been found in Honduras. There are a lot of people that are trying to debunk that skull, but it's bullshit. Anyway, the skull was found in Honduras in 1909 or something. Don't quote me, okay, because it's a long time ago, but thereabouts. And that book talked about how the top part of the skull, right, was found first, I believe, and then 8 months later, they were able to dug up the lower jaw, which actually removes, you can remove it, and a pure quartz crystal see-through. No, I'm not kidding. No inclusions, at least from what I heard. And so Mitchell Hedges was the anthropologist who had found it, and he gave it to his adopted daughter, and she became the caretaker of that skull. And I believe they lived in I think they lived in Canada. If I'm, again, correct me if I'm wrong. But what I do remember, which struck me like crazy, and Daniel and I had bought. We found the book, and there were 2 copies, and we bought it each. We would do that. We would, if we saw a book that would rock our world, we'd buy 2 copies so we could read them separately, and then read some things out loud that really struck us. And one of the things that struck us was that it was reported that this skull, and it was reported from psychics from all over the world who worked with the skull, who were not told anything, who did not know each other at all. They weren't allowed to show up to do these seances with the skull together. They would dribble in. So different psychics had worked with the skull and had reported very similar occurrences. And one of the main things they had reported is that the skull was actually the skull of a high Atlantean priestess, and so she was in her 20s, and she had been murdered during the factions. These warring Atlanteans, and her skull had been crystallized. And again, let's not look into what our technology is today. We're talking about very advanced technology. And that somehow we have many, many other skulls around the world that are still buried and that help with the electromagnetic balance of the planet. Most likely, so anyway, that's what they're saying. But what was interesting about, besides that, was that the skull, when psychics were working with it, they were getting images of Atlanteans and the battles and the wars and eventually the collapse of Atlantis. It was all coded into that skull. That's the point of this. And so we you'll notice that I write about this in this book, and how it's used in a certain way. You'll see that. And hi, Tony. So, yeah, so many people have talked about the skull. Yeah, the skull. There was a skull that I have. It's in my bedroom, and I lived in Malibu for a while, and right before COVID and during the onset of COVID lockdowns. Anyway, there was a crystal shop in Malibu. It's right there at the opening of. I'm trying to remember. It's Zuma. It's in the area when you're going up to Zuma Beach, which is beyond Malibu, right? But it's still considered Malibu. Anyway, there's a crystal shop there. It's kind of well known. It's very tiny. And they had a huge skull that was like a smoky crystal skull. Oh my God, I was so in love with it. It had prismatic colors. It was fucking insane. It was gorgeous. They were asking $15,000. But next to it was a smaller skull, the size of my closed fist, a little bigger than that actually. And the owner or the curator of that shop said, this skull, because I go visit the skull every day. I'm not joking. And he said, this skull sat next to the Mitchell Hedges. And I go, are you fucking kidding me? He goes, no. And this skull too, the little one that I wanted to. I said, what? He goes, yeah, they were here visiting, and they brought the Mitchell Hedges skull, because it's now owned by a man. And they don't call it Mitchell Hedges anymore, which I think is sad, because that's a bad idea not to keep the name, because over time we might lose the knowledge of what it is. Okay, over time, like in 100 years, we might not remember what the hell that. Oh, it's just another skull. No, it's that skull, not just any skull. But anyway, I'm regressing. So he said, yeah, we were able to put some of our skulls around the Mitchell Hedges skull for 2 solid weeks. I go, really? He goes, yeah, and so was that one. And I remember looking at the skull, the smaller one that I could maybe in some wild chance afford. And I started visiting that as well. And one day I was holding the skull to my forehead, and it said, you're going to buy me. You're going to buy. And I'm like, there's no way. I can't afford you. It's no, you're going to buy me. Not the one for not the one for 15,000, the other one. And one day I got a check. I'm not kidding. This is when I was running on the beach, meditating every day, doing my thing every day, chanting mantras and the whole bit. I got the check for the exact amount I needed, and I bought that skull, and I have it to this day, and I don't regret it. It was an incredible, sizable little purchase, but for me, it was worth it. That's what I mean by crystals choose you. You don't choose them. When crystals are very meaningful, I'm not saying don't buy little tchotchke crystals and stuff for the hell of it, for fun, to have on your windowsill. I'm not saying that, but typically when it's a massive piece, it will choose you. You will become its caretaker. And I was so enamored with that skull that I actually had a box made for it. I'm not kidding, a wooden box. So when I travel, it's nicely protected, and I don't have to worry about it falling or cracking or God knows. So anyway, in this book, it's the Mitchell Hedges skull. If you pay attention, you'll see it's mentioned. It's mentioned in the present life. It's mentioned and it's mentioned on how it's used in the ancient world. Because I know for a fact that it was used throughout the centuries. It wasn't just how it ended up in Honduras is still a bloody mystery. But you never know. You know what I mean? Everything shifted, land masses, conquerors. We're starting to realize that the Vikings, I know you've heard of this, the Vikings were in America. We know that there's reported tribes of Native Americans that had red hair and blonde hair. There's also that, by the way, in Africa. My father told me about that. He had walked through the Sahara Desert in the 60s. And I'll tell you a story. He had actually, I don't talk about my father that often, but he was an adventurer. He was in his 30s. He had been in Patton's Third Army. He was a vet from World War II, European stage. And when he ended up in Africa, he decided it would be a good idea to steal a diamond from a mine, but it was smuggled out to him. And then he walked the Sahara Desert, and in those days, I guess you could get a job anywhere. He had a job as an air steward, a steward, because they never checked your bags in those days, again, 1960s, and brought it to Europe. And somehow, and I don't know how that fucking happened, but the whole what's the word? The whole shysting, the whole hustle of that theft somehow got tracked back to the men who had hired my father to do it. And they knocked on his door and said, you gotta give us the diamond back, because they threatened our lives. They had somehow found out, which is incredibly crazy, but they had found out, and they had to they literally gave the diamond back. But the cool thing is he had this adventure of walking across the Sahara Desert and smuggling a diamond out in his on his person. So anyway, the magic of different realities from people who we never thought would have seen America. They talk about Africans, Phoenicians, and which are North Africans, by the way. They're Semitic, and the Vikings coming here. So we have no idea how the hell that crystal skull could have ended up in Honduras. And if it was buried for a reason, because maybe of its power, I don't know. Maybe it was very powerful at the time. Maybe it's dormant right now. It feels like it's dormant right now. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the most extraordinary happenings can happen to what you might think are the most common people. And we keep thinking that these adventures that people have and that these things that happen are in movies, and we forget that it took people to live these stories to create these pasts. And I think that's why I mentioned my father, to give you an example of that, okay? So we still don't know a lot of things that are real. And where a lot of people are talking about giants. I know Graham Hancock wrote about the pyramids, and again, Graham Hancock talked about the pyramids being way, way, way older than they had reported. They were reporting that it was during the Taurus era, and he was like, no, it's not. That's not how they did things in that part of the world. It would have been the Lionic era, Leo era. And sure enough, now there are a lot of these supposed experts are capitulating to what Graham Hancock was saying about the Sphinx, that it was built way, way, way older, and there were watermarks on it. And so that means that that area had water coming in, kind of like the Nile flooding and so forth. So we're finding a lot of things, which brings me back to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. There's this idea that a king, Nebuchadnezzar, created them, and my book discusses that, not in depth, it won't be bored by it, but towards the end you realize, oh shit, that wasn't who created that garden. It was another person, you know what I mean? Other people, another generation. Out of curiosity, where'd the check come from? I don't know what you mean, Zale. I'm sorry. What check? So, any questions on the Mitchell Hedges skull? Because I remember reading that book again and again and again, and I just thought it was brilliant. I mean, what they were saying. And if you notice, you don't hear about the Mitchell Hedges skull anymore. Have you noticed that? It's not talked about like it should. Which brings me to the whole next point of Nikola Tesla. Where'd the check come from? I don't actually remember, to be honest. I'm trying to remember because it was a check. It was a payment of some kind. I don't remember, actually. I just know that when I needed money during that time, you know what I mean? When I needed to be okay, I was always okay. It was weird. There was never any problems. And I've been tested many, many times, again and again, on that front, because I think it's because my family, my father traveled all over the world. We travel with him. That's why I'm a big, big, big advocate for children traveling with their parents. A lot of parents will go, oh, I have kids now, they have to go to school. I'm like, fuck school, especially schools. They've never been good. And I've gone to various schools, from a private school in Hong Kong, boarding school in Switzerland. I've been to school, so it's not like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I've been on the American system and so forth. And I can tell you that the most intelligent people I know are self-educated, and they've been raising their kids homeschooling. Aragon, the book Aragon, was written by this 15-year-old kid, and he was being homeschooled. And there you go. I mean, I could give you all kinds of examples. And colleges like kids that have been homeschooled because they end up being broad thinkers and solution-oriented kids. They come up with solutions. They haven't been trained to take tests. They've been trained to think and to come up with solutions. So giving a child or a teenager an opportunity for homeschooling, even if they mess up a little bit, because that's the nature of human beings, we're lazy. We tend to be lazy a little bit sometimes. We don't want to do what we don't want to do. But if you can make it interesting for them, or give them like certain tasks that are interesting and nature driven, then you'll find that your kid is going to thrive, So I don't know where that came from, but the hell, this is how I talk. I've had all kinds of money show up like that for no reason at all. I don't know how I do it, but I wish I could do it for a lot more, because then I would be able to do I would be able to give people massive breaks when I do readings. Okay, this is what I'm going to read to you now from the book. It says, Suddenly All Things Change, October 8th, 1997. Life is never static. This is not only a good thing, it's a sure thing. What was the benefit of remembering things that occurred over 3 millennia ago? What was the point? I've been wondering about that. Daniel was rereading the book on the crystal skull for the third time and had gone to the Pasadena library for any additional information on it. Although I appreciated his fascination, I just wasn't feeling as obsessed about it as he was. I believed that Atlantis had once been a formidable society. I believed it had sunk from a cataclysm created by its people's own arrogance. I knew the story of the flood was told again and again by various peoples from different continents. How could one explain that? The truth was, we didn't know anything about the ancient world, and what we did know was based on a handful of scrolls that had traveled through the ages, surviving these destructions of conquering nations, burning by the churches, or just plain loss. Guys like Plato wrote about Atlantis, and that is the only reason why we know of its existence. Homer's Iliad was the only reason why we knew of a city called Troy. And for many centuries, we believed that it was a myth until some German millionaire by the name of Heinrich Schliemann, uneducated in the ways of archaeology, began to illegally excavate a site, and that's how Troy was discovered. In addition to gold artifacts that would decades later be authenticated from the Bronze period. So my point is this: we only know what is recorded, and even then we're not sure if it's true until we find proof of its existence. The fact that my past life in Mesopotamia seemed impossible in terms of historical data made me doubt the veracity of my visions and my waking and sleeping dreams. The only thing that kept me on the course was the fact that I was walking parallel to Melek in these recalls. Do you see what I'm saying? So even though I was having past life downloads, if I hadn't had a past life download happening concurrently with Melek, right, in 1997, I would have gaslit myself and I would have buried it alive, and I would have lost all the gifts that this past life was showing me, was trying to show me. My ideas about masculinity, my ideas about sexuality, my ideas about love, and the unforgiven or unforgivable acts that had to be forgiven. And all these things were coming to a culmination. And so when people say, I am healed, no, you're healed for this juncture. And if you read the book, you'll see, and if you know me, you'll see, right, because you guys know me on these lives, is you'll see that that was one juncture of my healing. Then came another portal of healing. Then came another bridge to cross. Then came another level of healing. Then came, do you get what I'm saying? That's why when people say I'm healed, I'm like, bullshit. It's not because it's because, for example, when I did ayahuasca, that was another level of healing. When I went through the medicine, I let it work through me for a year. That's another level of healing. When my husband died, that was another level of healing and purging and pain. When my mother died, there was another. Do you understand? Healing isn't, I'm sick of, you can't say I'm sick and tired of healing, of doing this work. It isn't work. It's a life. You're living a life and you're handling your business, your day-to-day mundane business, which is paying the damn bills, earning money, in whichever capacity you do, and trying to get to a point where you're grounded enough to also, and this is what makes us so fucking miraculous and magnificent, is do you get that we're high priests and high priestesses while living a 3D Western lifestyle? And we're toggling those two concepts in tandem. That's fucking incredible. We're trapezes, for Christ's sakes. We're like nomadic trapezes. We're on the high wire with absolutely no net. None. And we're doing the best that we can in making it, and we're juggling multiple fucking things. It's no wonder we're stressed beyond our beyond belief. And so, and many of you as spiritualists, and I'm not going to call it New Age because it's insulting. There's nothing new about it under the sun. Religions are new. Spiritual truth is not new. It's ancient. It's as ancient as you're making as a spirit soul. But with that said, does that make sense what I'm saying? Because I feel like I'm rattling. I just want to make sure this is, connecting with what you guys are going through. And so I don't try to insult someone when they say, I've healed, I'm sick of healing. Which, by the way, has happened to my mom. I remember her saying, I'm done with this, I'm just done with this. And I'm like, done with what? It doesn't end because you're 70. It doesn't end when you're 80. It doesn't even end when you're dead. It continues. It's a constant, and, there's no doubt that there's more peace on when you drop these bodies because there's such density, right? But it's also not... it's not something to bemoan so much as to say, wow, I have this opportunity in this of all the incarnations you've had, and this is what you're going to read in the book, is that in all of the incarnations that you had, this is the first incarnation where you can really deep dive into what does this mean? When you look at her past life, Bakor, and the past life of this book, Recall, right? When you look at her 3,500 years ago, and you read what she's walking, which she's got to survive. She's got to make sure her kids aren't killed. She's got to make sure that the lineage of her family is kept alive, okay? That her progeny isn't destroyed, that there isn't a genocide. Do you understand? This has been going on for centuries, right? Except it's a microcosm of it. And she has to somehow do what she needs to do to ensure that. But unfortunately, because there's a soul connection with the conqueror, right, Kriu, and it's a strong soul connection, I would say twin flame connection, right? She has to now deal with loving two men, which is Melech, the king of Mesopotamia, of that part of the world, and Kriu, the conqueror. And it wasn't something she planned, but it certainly is creating a shit show in her life. And so that's what we are now being allowed to look at with philosophical eyes. And that's what's happening. And some of you have had past downloads in lives in other planets of fighting wars. And the sad part is many of you are gaslighting yourself. Hey, Tony, how are you? It's good to see you. Does that make sense, Mystic Warrior? I feel you. Yes, it makes sense. Truth. So what we think is real, and this is the problem you guys are going to have, is you're going to look at what you're remembering and try to connect it with historical data, and you're going to realize that you might actually go against it. I just mentioned Graham Hancock, I believe I'm saying it correctly, with the Sphinx, which was set in the Taurian age, which was not, it's not true, it's inaccurate. Much older than that. It would be the Leo age. Okay? So what if you had a past life in Egypt and you're like, wait, hang on, the Sphinx was being built, but it feels much older than this timeline that I'm seeing, which would have been the Taurus age. Am I making sense here? And you might actually decide that you're wrong, instead of going, wait, well, maybe I'm right and the history is wrong. Okay? And there were many ages with Atlantis. There were many ages. There wasn't just the end of Atlantis. There was a beginning. Like I did a Akashic reading for a client, and she lives in South Africa. And you would never know in a million years, because she has a very Kuan Yin energy, okay? So you would never expect from a Kuan Yin energy. But what did I just say? I just said you Kuan Yin, so listen up. So here I am doing an Akashic reading. I'm like, holy shit. Even I'm questioning it as I'm getting the downloads. I'm going, wait a minute, hang on. And they were showing me she was one of the 108,000 beings that lowered their frequency to found, they were the founders of Atlantis. Okay? And when I gave her the totem animals and whatever that came up, because it happens like that when I don't know why, but that's how they download everything to me. And she was like, blown away, because it wasn't like bullshit, because she's not exact, she doesn't, she's not apt to eat everything you give her, okay? And she was like, I can't believe that is my totem animal, this is my thing, and I've always felt this, and but she has a very Kuan Yin energy, which means, she's a superpower, but she's a very soft power, and it would make sense. She wasn't the barbaric downfall of the last days of Atlantis, which would have been barbaric. Okay, there were some real a-holes. Again, if you read any of Zecharia Sitchin's in translations of the Sumerian tablets, just because you're a starseed on the 7th level or a 6th dimension doesn't mean you're not an a-hole. Okay, just the ego is still present. You still have toxic people, or humanoid-like people, or starseed-like people. I don't know how to describe it. But you have good and evil. And the only difference is that when you're 5D, 6D, 7D, and so forth, you can co-create, you can turn water into wine, you can walk on water, you can do all that. It doesn't preclude you that you're wrong. You could be evil, okay? Or you have some problems, okay? And that's what people don't, I don't know where they thought that because you're starseed, you're going to be 100% fabulous and Christ consciousness, Buddhist consciousness, whatever consciousness you want to call that, you gravitate to, right? Religiously. But you got to realize that this is when we actually have amnesia. It's given to many of us, Okay, the majority of us. And from that, we have to excavate our shadows, and we have to clear the bullshit that has kept us bound in multiple incarnations. Does that make sense? So that's what's extraordinary. Incredibly makes sense. Great. I love it. I love it. Hey, Anushka, it's good to see you. Follow Anushka's channel. She has an amazing content. And Jen, follow Jen also. And sorry, I only say no one believes me that starseeds can also do very dark. Oh fuck yeah, please. And they don't have to be archons or lizard people or whatever. Okay. It's funny too, because when you look at Gene Roddenberry in his earlier Star Treks, and you had the Klingons, right? And the Klingons were assholes. They were just horrible. And then you had the Vulcans, right? And the Vulcans were very, like, they were 80, I would say they were 90% intellectual, 10% heart, okay? And remember, that was one of the things that Leonard Nimoy, Dr. Spock, struggled with. He was half human and half Vulcan, and he really preferred his intellectual side, his logical side, over, remember, Dr. Spock that doesn't make, what was he? I forgot his line, but he would always say that's not logical. And he had a hard time being in his heart chakra, right? And there are planets, and the Vedas talk about it. There are planets where it's 80% mind, 20% heart, and some planets the opposite. And we are one of the planets who is very diverse, like unbelievably diverse in our human population and in nature. And also we are 50% heart, 50% mind. And so when you meet starseeds, it doesn't preclude that they're starseeds, that they're not. You might fall in love with your twin, who when you were in separation incarnations, had perhaps more incarnations in logical planets, okay? And so they come down here with these logical caps on, and then and then they don't realize that 3D logic is not to be trusted, honestly. Mathematics, yes, of course, trust mathematics, they'll never lie. It's a language, but anything beyond that, no, you can't trust it, okay? So does that make sense so far? So no one believes, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I read that. You're welcome. Mine is so logical. Yes, a lot of the 3D twins are logical, but they cling to it like a raft, and the raft has a leak, and they're in the middle of the ocean, and eventually the raft is going to collapse, and they will be out in the middle of the ocean, and the ocean represents emotions and huge wide emotions, unknown emotions, and then they have to swim out to shore, and they can't use their logical mind out of that. They're going to have to go into the heart chakra and manifest an understanding, and they have to start asking the right questions to gain multiple different types of understanding and logic. In other words, logic that is irrefutable, mathematical logic, meaning if a person, not just one, but if millions of people have been able to manifest the dissolution of inoperable tumors in their bodies, right, through meditations and chanting, right, and this is documented, this is not woohoo, and if they have been able to do it through meditations or shifting their frequencies or working with sound frequency or whatever, if these people have been able to do that, then that means that 3D is malleable. And if it's malleable to your will, then it would make sense that the powers that be have been programming us to create worlds that are, or within, infrastructures that we would accept as normal, and we would like co-create that as an agreement. And so what's beautiful about what we're co-creating as a society, more and more of us, is that we're actually agreeing that we want to dismantle a system. And so again, remember, we're doing right now, many of us starseeds who have a Atlantean connection, many of us had multiple incarnations in Atlantis, in the beginning, in the middle, and the end, and Lemuria. And So now we're realizing, and that's why so many people are just fucking losing their shit and protesting, is because they're not going to have it. Not this time. This is not going to be a flip. And there's a co-creation happening with a new consciousness, and that new consciousness is refuting and refusing and blocking the 1% agenda. You know what I mean? And that's why we had to remember Atlantis. Water is emotions. Mine is so logical. He did start asking about tarot. Well, he should be asking about reincarnation. You know, I'm going to go straight up, get to it, because tarot scares the shit out of people. I've been dreaming about water a lot lately. I'm not sure why. That's emotions. Mine thinks he has to be ET. Says it's the only logical explanation for him. Low intimacy last week had stronger activation than usual. He ran like hell afterwards. I get it. That's why you got to stop the. Sometimes you got to look at not having intimate connection with your twin, because they'll continue thinking it's the sex rather than the connection. Because once the sex is off the table, they realize, oh shit, I still can't stop thinking of her or him. It's not the nectar of this incredible mind-blowing sex. It's more than that. And once they realize that it's more than that, then they get it. So are you guys okay with me reading a little more of my book, Recall? Or is that okay? Because I'm reading little snippets. Is that cool? Hang on. Yeah? Okay, cool. We can. And then I have to go. Let me see what... I might read something... Hang on, okay? Because I'm trying to find something that would make more sense. Oh, okay. So this is actually exactly, as I read it, it's exactly what happened. My screen read, Malik is typing, and for a long time I waited. I imagined him writing his answers and then erasing them and then pausing and writing again and then editing. And finally, when time had lost its meaning between 2 phone calls from Avar and then a colleague, his answer was received. My lovely Bakor, what you doubt is fear. You do not trust the ease of our shared experience. The ease to which our past lives flow makes you doubt. But how would it help if I stumbled over itself in half-twisted truths and nonsense? You and I would have long parted. The reality of this journey is that it needs to be recalled. I'm not sure what the big purpose is. All I know is that once, long ago, in a land and kingdom long forgotten by men, we lived, we loved, and we dreamed. We have returned to find each other. We have remembered a glorious life filled with lessons still to be learned. Would you end this now when we are so close to revealing all that is to be revealed? We are on the greatest excavation ever. Let us continue and taste the sweet fruits of our labor. I read his answer over and over. I copied and pasted his message to a new Word document. I saved it under a file I had created long ago titled Past Lives. Only then did I answer him. Malik, your sweet words of wisdom soothe my timid soul. I am lost in this vortex of images, sounds, and smell and voices. I remember it all to a fault. It is all too perfectly recalled, yet I cannot stop, will not stop, until the images stop sliding into me with such ease. I agree. This is the greatest excavation ever undertaken, an excavation of the soul. So tell me, my dearest queen, what did your dream reveal? But first, allow me to reveal the images that came to me today, and perhaps you can tell me how these shreds tie together. So, did you hear that? It's basically this idea that this can't be happening, this can't be real. And I'm starting to realize now why I experience. See, there's a lot of stuff I experienced in my early 30s, 20s, this, that, I could tell you, and I'll tell you another story. And had I not experienced, see, I had two people I experienced this with, actually 3, where we were having simultaneous downloads. One was my lover, and I'll explain it to you one day, in Egypt. And I was 18 years old in Switzerland. One was many times with Daniel, my husband. And then this one, which was the most stretched out, it went on for weeks, was Malik. And had I not been walking beside Malik, energetically speaking, and had his support, I would have thought I was going crazy. That's what's so amazing, is that I would have totally thought I was going crazy. But it wasn't me unraveling these images. And you see, every step he would tell me this, and I would tie it up with, this is what I'm getting downloads, this is what I'm seeing. Because when we would type to each other on the screen on AOL, and suddenly we would then lean back in our chairs and close our eyes and download what was coming, and then we would just type ferociously what we had just seen before we forgot it. And that's exactly, and most of these texts, these chats back and forth, I copied and pasted and into a Word doc so I wouldn't forget. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly how it went down. It was really interesting. So what my point to that is that I need you to realize, right, that you're not, that you have to somehow find it in yourself to excavate these past lives as far as you can go, right? And if you can't do it on your own, but you've got the beginnings of it, call somebody like me, call a hypnotherapist, you know what I mean? And so that's why Recall had to be re-released as what it was. Also, it was sorry, I'm not talking. A creative nonfiction. I had to. Because I realized that if people didn't understand this, especially now with the awakenings, we would lose many people who would not get it, in particular women. And I'll tell you why. I've noticed something about the masculine brain, is that when the man, and this is for the most part, is awakening or wakened, I don't know, call it arrogance, brash balls, I don't know, whatever. But men tend to, once they see it, and it's a fact. There's an arrogance, and I love it because you need it. So they don't need that. But women tend to vacillate like you wouldn't believe. They vacillate. They just skate back and forth to thoughts. They can't believe they're that powerful, whereas men can. A lot of people would say, "Oh my, yeah, sure, Tony, you were a queen." Yeah, we've all been queens or kings once, at least once, in these incarnations. You know how many kings and queens we've had throughout the centuries? You don't think it's possible? And on this planet or other planets, of course it's possible. Who cares? It's not the point, really. But the point is, what was the pain that needs to be, we overthink and run. Exactly. Men run when men are weak, they run. Broken masculines, they run because everything scares them. That's a whole different male. But when the male is shamanic, right? And he gets a download, he's not going to fuck around. He's going to understand it. He's going to sit with it. He's going to chew on it like chewing on whatever, chewing on something. And he's going to know that this is real. And it was also a time when you got to remember, in the 90s where drinking was really big. And in the ancient world, there's a show called How Beer Saved Civilization. I'm not joking. I'm actually not joking, because water was so dirty and filled with all kinds of amoebas and whatever that it was actually disgusting. And so so there was ale, ancient ale, mead, and so forth. And it's an ancient, people drank it all the time. That's what they drank. But also, I remember in the 90s, there was a lot of drinking. I believe, I'm trying to remember the date, but I think it would have been around the same era as O.J. Simpson and this and that. And I would go to this Trader Joe's, and the judge was a Japanese judge. I forgot his name. I forgot his name. I'm sorry. But I remember on Friday night, I saw this a few times. He was in line with a bottle of vodka of the gods, which was the size of a gallon container of milk, but it was vodka. He was going to get sauced for the weekend after this trial. So there was a lot of drinking, so you may see that. I don't condone it. It just was, and I wrote it during just to show that era as well. What else can I tell you? And also the concept of poverty. That's the other thing. The concept of lack, which harks back from these past lives. So many of you have problems manifesting money. You have no problems manifesting shit you don't want, but you have a big problem manifesting what you don't want, right? And that's another issue. So let me see what else. All right, so I am going to do Oracle cards. Zale was asking for that, so I'm going to do that. And I think I'm going to go with Angelic Lightworker, which is angels. And the angels that are described are Angel Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel. So I'm going to do that one. Any question? So I just Googled it. What did you Google? Tell me again, what did you Google? What did you Google, Jen? I want to know. Mine knows he's Etilo. He's cocky about it. No intimacy yet in almost 4 months. Yeah, sometimes you got to like establish the connection, the soul connection, okay? Because the sex has already been established. We know the sex is going to be off the charts. Of course, why wouldn't it be? You guys have been lovers hundreds of thousands of times. Like if you don't know how to push each other's sexual buttons by now, I don't know what you guys have been doing. So sex off the rocks with a twin and a high-level soulmate is like a no-brainer. That's like, yes, Lance Ito. The judge was Lance. Yeah, that was him. He was a lovely man, by the way. I could tell from, but he was like fucking done. I'm like every Friday. I'm gonna say every Friday because that's a big ass. But that's a serious. Like I'm definitely gonna have a drink and a few, not just one. I remember because we lived in this little apartment. It was such a cute place, right in Pasadena, right walking distance from that Trader Joe's on Marengo, off Marengo Avenue, and hang on, I forgot, Van Ness, I think. So just anybody out there that lives in Pasadena or knows Pasadena will know what I'm talking about. So Recall, the book I was talking about, I've been reading excerpts from, is on my profile on my Linktree on Amazon. The paperback is 6x9. The cost is $11.11, and the Kindle is $4.99. And I think it's a quick read. You live in Corona, the beautiful place, by the way, Corona. Anybody from Chicago by any chance, by the way? Speaking of which is totally off topic, but I'm asking because I have some spiritualists who are starseeds who need some Chicago people. Anybody from Chicago? If you know people from Chicago who are starseeds or who are feeling lost or empty or whatever, could you go on Discord and let us know where you're from so that we can put you guys together? Because I'm getting a lot of people in particular in Chicago that need each other. Just so you know. Thanks for checking that out. I appreciate it, Jen. Yeah, that was a weird one. So any questions on the book and why I decided to finally release it? I'm from Chicago. Okay, Jackie, go on our Discord. Let me know. Hit me up. Let me know, and I'll put you in touch with people in Chicago. Okay, because you guys need each other. I don't know what it is, but you guys need each other. Let me see. I am going to read you one more thing. So, Jackie, can you do that? Just give me a yes, okay? Go on Discord. Okay. All right. So we're going to do the Oracle reading. So I need you guys to give your angels, guides, and allies permission to guide you. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jackie. All right. I appreciate that because if I could put you in touch, I have a woman there that would it would be lovely. It would be lovely if you guys could connect. All right, so when you're ready, I want you guys to pick from the bottom, middle, or top, bottom, middle, or top. And I haven't done this for a while, but if you guys are being asked to do a reading via text, that isn't me, via TikTok Messenger. It's not me. I don't know why I have to keep doing that, but apparently I do. Bottom, bottom. Okay, it's bottom. All right. Earth Warrior, 43. Okay, 43 in Kabbalah numerology is 7. 7 is the journey. The journey. The 7 wonders of the world. It's beautiful. All right, so let's do it. All right, so let me go ahead and read from 43. Bear with me while I find the page, and then I'll read it to you. And we'll go from there, okay? Bear with me. I think it's the last bloody card in the deck. Bloody hell. No, it's before the last. All right. So this is again called Earth Warrior. Your loving and courageous heart helps generate spiritual protection for our planet. You extend your care by educating yourself about Earth-supportive consumer choices and lifestyle practices and cultivating love and peace in your heart. Your generous offerings of prayer and healing benefit our planet and her extraordinary abundance of fascinating, unique creatures. I've been really trying to bang the drum on you guys, all of you, saying I don't want to come back here, to realize that it's very... I'm going to make a joke, okay? I was born in Paris, so I can say that. I don't like Parisian people for the most part. I really don't. I love Paris, though. Paris is a fucking amazing city. It's absolutely stunningly gorgeous, okay? Just as a joke, okay? Not really. I'm not really joking. I love Paris. I'm not interested. There are places that I love, but I'm not into the people, okay, at all. So the problem isn't Earth, Pachamama, Mother Earth. The problem is it's the infrastructure that's the problem. That's what makes you say, I don't ever want to come back. Have you ever been to Fiji? Have you ever been to Australia? Have you ever been to Switzerland? Have you ever been to Nepal, Tibet? It's not the land that's a problem. It's the infrastructure, and some of it is narcissistic. Okay, so let's reframe, I'll never come back. No, when I come back, it'll be 5D vibration, it'll look like this, it'll look like that. Because mark my word, as a hypnotherapist, I know for a fact that many of the Starseeds incarnations we've had, these planets are very homogeneous. The people and its planet. That's not good, okay? So let's continue. If you are concerned about how Earth can survive, release such fear now and channel your emotional energies into constructive steps forward on your path. Balance peace with courageous commitment in your heart. Trust in the wisdom and power of the earth and the grace and love of the angels to support your life purpose. You can help heal and support the earth and her creatures in your own special way. Healing, magical, and manifestation with Archangel Uriel. Cross the threshold into the sacred by closing your eyes, breathing deeply, and dropping into a peaceful, loving connection with your heart. When you feel connected to your heart, say out loud, Archangel Uriel, I am honored and open-hearted in your presence. I gratefully acknowledge the abundance, prosperity, and sacred manifestation and countless blessings that you bring for the greatest good of all. You support the embodiment of divine light. I am ready and willing to receive your healing and guidance to fulfill my inner potential for the spiritual benefit of all beings. I trust you to hold and protect the sacred space for healing in accordance to divine will, so be it. Hold your preferred hand over your heart. Imagine, intend, visualize, or feel a luminous shining gold light gather and grow from within you now. Feel it expand until it creates a vibrant circle of light around you. Trust that there is, whether you sense it or not, the sacred circle holds you comfortably within it. It can be as large or as small as it feels comfortable for you. Within the sacred space, you are held, protected, and supported for your process. The light and presence of Archangel Uriel shines through the circle of gold light and fill the space within it, loving and powerful divine energy. The circle can transform into other shapes, an egg, sphere, pyramid, or column of light, or it can remain as a circle and still accomplish its purpose of holding sacred space for your healing and manifestation practice. To call forth the Archangel, repeat, Archangel Uriel. For as long as it feels right, you can sing, chant, speak loudly or gently, whatever helps you focus and feel a heart connection to Archangel Uriel. As you repeat the name, imagine, intend, or feel the presence of Archangel Uriel increase in the sacred space. Now it is time to express your intentions for the practice. It might be a specific issue or a desire to connect and allow angelic wisdom to do whatever it needs according to higher will. When we speak from the heart, sometimes we can feel like we are finally dropping into our truth out of confusion and beginning to gain some clarity and reconnect to our inner power. It can be such a relief. If you are offering this healing on behalf of another, dedicated by saying, honoring free will, I will offer this healing 2, say name. May any residual energy be sent to wherever it can to do the most good. This is incredible. Archangel, there's the prayer. Archangel Uriel and beloved Earth Mother, I offer this prayer of love, energy, goodwill, and compassion from my heart for the spiritual protection and healing of our planet. I cannot understand why pollution and harming of our world continues. I find it so difficult to accept, but I know you have the power to bring peace to all hearts and wisdom to all minds. I offer you my struggle, my love for the environment and your creatures. Use that energy to benefit our ecosystems. Please help the parts of our ecosystem in most need now. I offer my deep intentions, heart wisdom, and soul energies to you in dedication to our planet's healing. Show me how I can best be a healing channel. Help me use my talents and abilities to be part of the healing solution according to your divine grace and creative genius. May all beings know and benefit from our loving, compassionate, and restorative wisdom. See or feel that your heart is pouring forth love and compassion, and if you feel other emotions, offer them too. Express and offer your vision, voice, sounds, pain, and hope, and anything else you feel to the divine. Visualize or imagine all the energies you are expressing being released from your heart into your outstretched hands. See them being transformed into golden light by Uriel. Mother Earth then uses this light to heal our planet at a spiritual level. Stay with this process until there's a sense of peace and trust in your heart. Return to it whenever you need to. In time, you may find wisdom and comfort that help you hold compassionate space for environmental change. Have faith in the healing power of Mother Earth and connect to the peace in your heart. There's an ocean that has miles of plastic floating. Miles. Why don't you, I'm going to invite you to visualize it all dissolving into gold dust. Because I was shown that. And so if I was shown that, then it means that my guides are telling your guides and your souls that you may want to concentrate on that. You also want to concentrate on the children around the world who are dying in ways that are not quick, that are very, very tragic. And because I saw children and blood as I was reading this to you. I'm just telling you the downloads I'm getting from my guides. So they're showing me, and it came in that order, okay? They showed me the ocean of plastic. Then they showed me children with blood all over them. So it's important that we see all children around the world laughing and playing safely, having access to everything they need, no matter what, no matter where they are in the world. It doesn't matter, okay? Let's continue. You need to be spiritually held more strongly during these moments. Feel yourself wrapped in the wings of Archangel Uriel and keep shining your heart light. Hold the open-hearted magnetic space for solutions to manifest for all in need. Now it is time to ground and dedicate the practice. Focusing on the flow of your breath and the weight of your body and where it connects to the chair or floor can be a good way to ground. Conscious movement of the hands and feet or drawing your awareness to the air's temperature on your skin can also be grounding. These things help you bring your attention back into the here and now. Dedicate your work by saying, may the energies generated here today bring spiritual benefit to all beings. May any excess energy be sent to where it can do the most good. So be it. Place your hand on your heart and say, this work is now sealed and complete. Thank you, Archangel Uriel. To close the practice, visualize, imagine, or feel or intend that the sacred circle of gold light is dissolving into the earth. This nourishes the earth and fertilizes your work so it can come to life for the greatest good. You have completed your process. Now it is time to settle and allow the work to unfold in angelic grace. Aho. Wow, that was beautiful. So that's your message for today. And when we do things for the greater good, for people, for places we will never visit, nor people we will never meet, this is our greatest gift. This is the greatest, beautiful, the most beautiful aspect of human nature, is your ability to want abundance to places and people you will never meet. That is true. That is what a true twin flame is, in union or not. Okay, in union or not, that's what a twin flame conscious being or starseed, by the way, starseed, twin flame, honestly at this point, I'm feeling most of you who are in a twin flame, for real, are starseeds. So that is your magic, your ability to wish only the best, the very, 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 very best you can muster for places and people you will never, ever visit or meet. That's big. Okay? And so that's what you need to step into. That's what makes human beings so beautiful. Don't concentrate on the assholes, okay? That's not your job to concentrate on that. Your job is to concentrate on the imbalance and anything that is unjust. Yeah, concentrate on that. Concentrate on making sure that the unjust things are righted. Right the wrongs. Justice card 11, okay? And go from justice card, which is 11 in terror, to 1111, which is the 401, which is make the planet Earth the abundant utopia. See? Don't let your monkey mind tell you can't have it all. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can have it all. Because your having it all is not my having all. I don't want your twin flame as a woman. I'm not your competition. You know why? Because I don't want your twin flame. There are very few women that will ever satisfy your twin flame, the masculine, and vice versa, the feminine. In truth, okay? So you don't have to worry about lack consciousness on any level. And that includes thinking that you can't have it all. That to have a utopic idea of planet Earth is naive and childlike. I have more trust. I would love if children actually ran governments. They have more wisdom and sense. More wisdom and sense. Because they're closer to source. And they know what it is to love and to laugh and to have fun over the most mundane, with seemingly mundane things. So in you honoring your inner child and bringing your inner child out of the caverns of your own subconscious, right? Why don't you allow your child to allow you to imagine the world that you want to live in right now? And if more of us did that collectively, believe me, suddenly, magically, inexplicably, suddenly we'd see like infrastructures collapse and new systems that actually would embody your imaginings, your daydreamings, your manifesting of what you want to experience and what you want your children to experience and your grandchildren to experience when you're no longer in the body. There's an old saying that, and I forgot how it really goes, but the idea of planting fruit trees, you know you will never be alive to eat the fruits from. And yet who says that's true? Because you could incarnate to actually, enjoy the abundance of past manifestings from your past lives. We really, I don't know when we lost our way to God and God consciousness, but some of these incarnations we've had really did a number on us. It really did a number on us. And we have to become transcendental so that we can co-create the exact type of world we want. And I think most of us agree on what we want. I don't think what I want is any different than what you want. I don't care if you're man, woman, child, Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Baptist, Buddhist, New Ager, whatever. I hate that term, New Ager. But you know what I'm saying? I don't think Wiccan. I really don't. I don't think we want anything different. I think most of us are humble. Okay? If you weren't humble, you wouldn't be here listening to me at all. You'd be, listening to, there's nothing wrong with crypto. I'm just saying, if you're listening to how to make more money. And right now you're listening to how to be a better and happier soul, which, by the way, brings you more material abundance. That's the irony. And when material abundance isn't so easily experienced, it's usually because something has really, really hammered you. And that's okay. You're not failing. You're not regressing. You just need to assess the situation and realize it's kind of like you broke your foot and then you wonder why you can't run. Just let your foot heal. The foot will heal and you'll swim and then you'll start, you'll run again. Do you get what I'm saying? So when you're unable to manifest X, Y, and Z in the beginning, you've got to heal some of your stuff and eventually you'll be an amazing manifester. And you'll be back in the saddle manifesting magic. Any questions at all? All right. So I'm not ever going to hit you up for a reading on TikTok. That's not my style. I'm not going to I'm not going to do any of that. Okay. And if you want a reading from me, if you want an Akashic reading, a tarot reading, a psychic reading, or a hypnotherapy past life regression, you have to go on my profile, and you need to just fill out the intake form, and I'll call you. Also, if you want to buy Recall, the book, it's on Amazon. You can go ahead and again, it's on my profile, Linktree. It says how to Recall. It goes right to the page, and you can go ahead and buy it. And if you are from another country, the only way to buy it will be through Kindle, just so you know. If you want to buy the hardback book and you want it signed by me, let me know, and I will make arrangement for you to get the book. I'll order it, I'll sign it, and then I'll post it to you in any place in the world. Okay, there'll be posting fees. I'm not gonna lie, but I'll let you know. I'm not gonna gouge you all. I'll make sure that I do air post, but it'll be exactly the price. So I'll let you know what the cost is. Once I know what the cost is, I'll let you know. Okay, salut, ça va? Okay, any other questions or shares? I think this was a good reading. I want to thank you again for being patient and listening to some of the excerpts of the book, Recall. And if you want hypnotherapy, this, that, and the other, let me know, and we'll schedule it. And we'll talk. 144, fantastic, great. And I have a reading like at 2:30. I got a couple readings today, so I gotta get my head together, do some meditations and probably some yoga poses. You know what I mean? And some breathing and all of that good stuff, and get it together. 414, beautiful. You can't make this shit up. It's awesome. God's energy. Dude, I love it. So I want to send you much love. I will upload this. Before I go, hang on. So I want you guys to do something. In November of this year, every child being born in November, the day they're born, the first, I'm going to give you an example. So 11, right? 1. So 11 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 comes out to 10 probably, or 19. I don't know. I'm putting it off the 10. And 1 plus 9 is 10, and 10 is 1. What I've noticed for November in terms of numerology, I've never seen this happen before, is that the day the children are being born, the day, say 15th of November, comes out to 15 as a life path number, which will come out to 15 or whatever number, and it'll come out to 6. 6 is a life path number. Does that make sense? So, and how do I explain this better? So I want you guys to pull out your calculators. This is your homework, and a report back is add every day and see how November, if they're born on the 18th, 18 is 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 is their single compound number for the day they're born. And if you add the whole day, 11 plus 1 plus 8 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3, that should come out to a single compound number of 9. I've never seen that happen before in numerology. Never. I've never seen it, ever. So the day they're born and the single compound number of the year, their life path number, is this. It's fucking blowing my mind. Am I making sense, guys? Do you get what I'm doing? And I needed to, I don't know why, but I needed to share that. Do you guys understand what I just shared with you? It's mind-blowing. And so we are having some very, 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 oh, thank God, because I don't know if I explain myself correctly. So we are having some multiple, powerful, kick-ass souls coming in right now. It's blowing my mind. So if their life path number, so they're born on the 18th of the day of November, and it comes out to 18 or I don't know, whatever, but it comes out to 9. So either way, it's 9. 9 is God's number. It's a perfect master number. I kid you not. That's blowing my mind, because what it means to me is that you've got very powerful souls that are both highly evolved. They're all evolved. All these souls coming in are evolved. That's obvious to me. But the life path number is going to more or less flag if they've got karma to pay, if they are taking on karma, if they are in a place of muzzled lack energy, if they have major shit to handle. And no offense, some could be super, super powerful and evil. I'm being honest, okay? I'm sorry. These are souls. And some will be incredibly, they're telling me to say angelic levels, crystalline energy that is just, and so you right now in November, we're having high priestesses and priests being incarnated. It's blowing my freaking mind. Okay? So if it's 11/28, right? 28 is what? 10. What is 10? 1. Then add the whole birth number, all the numbers, the month, the day, the year, and watch it. It's a 1. It's fucking blowing my mind. So I wanted to share that with you guys because I just came across that and I was like, holy fuck. It's giving me chills. I know. It's hard for me to explain. Yeah, isn't it wild? So pull out your calculators and do what I just said, okay? And I'm going to post this video because of this. Well, I'm going to post it anyway. But you'll see the cover of the book Recall. That's when you'll know that this is the video to watch. But yeah, check it out. Pull out your calculators on every day every day in November. You will see that the day they're born, with the single compound number being calculated down to the single compound number. So 18 is 9, 22 is 4, 23 is 5. Do you get what I'm saying? And then you add everything. No, not October, my love. I'm talking about November of this year. No offense, okay? No, I can't do that day because I'm really trying to really concentrate on that. It's a 10, it's a 1. Just do it. You can do it. Believe me. I can't do it right now because I'm really trying to explain this phenomena, which I've never, ever seen. The only phenomena I've seen is that anybody born in the year 2000 only has one life path number. And again, I don't know how to explain this to you anymore. Like today's date is 11. No. Today's date is what? The 27th or 27? So anyway, do you get what I'm saying? Any questions on that? So 28 is 10. 28 is 10, which is 1. And then you add 11, which is 11 plus 2 plus 8 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3. Boom. What does that come from? I don't know. I can't add it right now because if I do my calculator, you guys will be off. You'll be kicked out, or I'll be kicked out of it. Does that make sense? So that's what I want you guys to study. That's your homework. Okay? That's your homework today. Go ahead and do it. And figure it out, and then sit back and go, holy fuck. You'll go like, I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck's going on here? Wait, hang on. And I started doing different dates. 27 is 8, life path number 8. The day they're born is 8. By the way, that's the dangerous part, is that 8 is paying karma. It's not a walk in the park, that particular date. Okay. All right. So I hope this helped. And I will upload this on my YouTube page. And the YouTube page is on my profile. Go to Linktree. It'll be there. Go scroll all the way down. Or if you want, just go on YouTube and search Sacred Intimacy Tarot. And I will upload this as soon as possible today. I promise. Okay? Plus, there's all kinds of other beautiful chats that I've had with guests that are really, really cool. Thank you. But I mean, anybody, can do it. But the most important conversation for me is to share with you to pay attention to the children being born right now. There was a baby that was pulled out of Gaza, out of a rubble. They couldn't find the mother. Can you fucking imagine? But anyway, brand new baby. And you saw all these Palestinian men sitting around taking photos, and they were so excited to see life instead of death coming out of the rubbles. And so I was trying to figure out when that baby was born. I was trying to figure out what day. What does this mean? The baby's being born right now in month of November. Very, very significant. Do not ignore it. It's not a day. It's not normal. This is very unusual. And I've seen it here and there. Don't get me wrong, where, that happens. But everybody in the month of November is having the experience of having the day they're born, having the same single compound number as the single compound number of their life path. That's blowing my mind. So, all right. So yeah, pay attention to that. Let me know. Report back. I will do a live tomorrow. Okay. Let me see what my calendar is, and I'll give you a date so you guys can maybe, if you want to join again, maybe we can fluff out this conversation a little more, because that's. Let me tell you if I have a reading for tomorrow. I'm free tomorrow. So why don't we do it again? Same time, 12 o'clock, my time, California time. And I'll do another live and we can all meet together and have a meeting to talk about this a little more. Is that cool? Any questions? Or do you guys need it later? Like, let me know because I'll do it because I'm open tomorrow. Okay? 1:23 p.m. Yes, but I started at 12. I started at 11, actually, 11:30. So can we do 12? Because in the East Coast, that's 3 p.m. Because I really want to actually talk more about that. Because I want us to like pull out our pens and get ready. Because that is blowing my mind. I'm like, I'm really excited. I want to meet a baby. No, I know what you mean. I love 123, by the way. That's 6, which is love. Love, money, choices, and I love 6. All right, so, but guess what? You just said it, there's 23 people here. Isn't that cool? All right, so let me let you guys go. I got to get my head together. I got to start my readings today with clients. If you want a reading, just go on my Linktree and fill out the intake form on my website. If you want the book, Recall, it's there as well. I know, I wish I was... Well, be a godmother. That's all I gotta say. And be a godmother. Maybe tomorrow we can talk about numerology more intense. I'm not gonna do people's numerology. I'm sorry. I'll tell you why. Because, and I'll be blunt. Because I need to. When I do numerology, I do it much more intensely, and I don't like to do things half-assed. Okay, at all. But this, we'll talk about it, and this will help the collective. I don't like doing individual things. Unless I do one-on-one and then you guys are across from me and we're actually doing the work together. We're doing a hypnotherapy session, or I'm doing a twin flame reading with the numerology involved and the tarot reading and the psychic downloads and the Akashic downloads and all that. Then yeah, I'll do it. But I will not do don't throw numbers. Don't get prepared with throwing me your birth date. That's it's not that it's not cool. It's just that you're gonna get a half-assed reading, and it's going to be, and that's why I don't like numerologists that do this online. They give you just the one life path number, and who cares? It means nothing. The meat is in the double digit life path numbers, double digits. There's all kinds of nuances to the shit. It's not just in your, I'm a 9, I'm an 11. Who gives a shit? We have 8 billion people, pretty much tons of people, hundreds of millions of people have an 11, but that's not their story. Okay, that's not the whole entire story. There's more to that. And that's why I don't like doing it like that. And I don't like asking you guys to PayPal me $10 so I can do your... To me, it's no offense. I understand people do that, and I'm not putting them down. But that's not how I want to make my rent, to be honest. I'd rather do it correctly or not at all, honestly. I'm just being blunt. Thank you. I'm glad that you get my boundaries, because it's like go big or go home. You know what I mean? You either want a proper reading or you want bubble gum. Let me put a quarter in the little machine to get my bubble gum ball. No, I don't get it. I'm not going to do it. I get it. All right, my loves. It was always a pleasure. It's always fun. So tomorrow at 12, I'll do the live, and then we'll go from there, okay? So please share the live tomorrow. That'd be awesome. But I'm putting in my calendar, we're doing the live on numerology and on what's going on with kids being born in the month of November of this year. It's extraordinary to me. All right, my loves, take care. Be well. Namaste.